Good evening to all of you. I'm Prachi Malviya and I'm from Team Jupiter. And first of all, I would like to tell you about the ADORE. ADORE is a global volunteer group of college students and professionals who have come forward together to motivate the budding youth into taking positive actions. And, and I welcome you to this platform. And I will like to all introduce you about ma'am. She is an accomplished professional with MBA in Finance and Marketing from the Indian Institute of Management, Calcutta, and a chartered account from the Institute of Chartered Accountants of India. And she has an impressive media background, having worked as a television anchor at CNBC and a news anchor at Times Now. Ma'am has been invited to speak at several human rights conferences in Europe and India. Her insightful articles have been featured renowned publications such as the Times of India. We all welcome you here, ma'am. You can now start.
Thank you, Prachi. It is such a small group. I was just wondering, doing a speech is really highly boring and no fun. I was just wondering if it's possible to put on your videos and we can all just chat for a couple of minutes and look at each other. Would that work? Just for the audience. I know webinars where you put your, thank you, Karthikeyan. Webinars where you have to put your camera on are terrible because you can't slouch and you can't do your thing, but I'm hoping it is okay, just like a handful of us. So I thought we could chat instead of having it like a one-way thing. Is there anyone else who'd like to put their video on?
Can you please turn on your camera? Julie, judge me.
Okay. So, hi, Julie. I'm sorry to bully you into putting on your cameras and all of that. Again, I mean, just a handful of us. So I thought we can just talk informally, instead of it being like a one-way, really boring lecture. Maybe we can chat for a couple of minutes, share our stories, and hopefully take something away at the end as well. I was thinking about how to start this today, and did you all have a good day, a bad day? I thought, let me just begin by asking, did you have a good day, Karthikeyan? Am I saying your name right? How do you say it?
Saying my name exactly as it.
As is, I'm right.
Today it was not disappointing, not too good, not too bad. It was not disappointing.
Okay, I'm not going to pry yet. Julie, what about yours?
My day was okay too. I'm a little bit sick, but it was productive.
You know what? I think I'm looking for an excuse to complain because my day was terrible. I got out of bed on the wrong side. My alarm went off. I didn't hear it. I woke up late. My children nearly missed the school bus. And then from there, it's just something or the other is going wrong. I lost a big project. Someone else I was hoping would say yes, said no. So it's been like a terrible, terrible day. And we have that, right? We have good days and bad days. And I was thinking, because of the seminar today, I was just thinking, what makes a good day and a bad day? There are things which are not in our hands and not in our control, which will happen in any case. But there are things that are in our control as well, right? And which is our beautiful, wonderful, strange, absolutely fascinating mind. So much of it just depends on how we perceive things. And which is what I thought, let me structure the conference today around our mind. I mean, it is something, it's one of the most incredibly complex and fascinating and very poorly understood organs of our body. And so much of what we think, so much of what we feel, and definitely what we do depends and is controlled by the mind, right? And yet we understand so little of it. I mean, we hardly know, even scientists and doctors and even the yoga gurus and all of that. We try and get little bits of it, but really nobody knows much. So I thought today can be a little bit of a reminder to say, let us go back and at least recognize and be cognizant of the fact that this is what we have. And although we don't understand it, we cannot control all of it, but maybe there are parts of it that we can hold on to. So again, it's a small group. Can I just ask you, if I had to ask you to think and say, can you think of a word? Can you think of one word? Okay, not a phrase, just a word that uh, that makes you happy, or something that you do, or something, or whatever, just a word that you feel helps you in getting to a state of being calm or at peace or happy, or just move towards the positive side. Is there anything that you want in your life, or you work for, or you aspire to, or you have? Just one word, anything that comes to your mind which is associated with positivity. What's the first thing? Don't think too much, just say it instinctively. What are you looking for?
I believe that word is curiosity. I love to be curious. I love to know about many things. So when I'm lying in the bed, if something pops in my mind, I love to search those things instead of sleeping. So I love to learn about many things. So I think, am I audible?
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're a learner.
Yeah, I love to be
And you'll
learning
never
new
grow
things.
old, Karthikeyan, because they say that a curious mind, they say you never grow old. Even at old age, if you can retain that sense of curiosity and wonder, you live forever.
Yeah, I'm a little bit older. I'm old enough to have midlife crisis.
Oh, no. That's what I'm saying. So if you can retain that
I understand.
childlike wonder of things, and just, wanting to know the world.
Yeah.
Yui, what about you? Don't think, just say it. It's just us. It's like 5 people. Just say it.
The one word that brings me joy currently has to do with reading books.
Hmm.
It brings me like, you can travel different worlds, you can have different endings and everything. That makes me happy.
Yeah, that's an easy one. I love to read as well. But more often than not, I'm picking on the darker books. So it's not making me very happy, but it's making me curious about other people's lives. And so Pooja, what about you? Don't put your camera off. Just say something easy. Okay, let me tell you. I was thinking of actually asking all of you this, and I was thinking in my mind, what is it for me? And for me, I think at this stage of my life, I'm looking for softness. There's just, I don't know. Again, I'm in the midlife kind of stage that you're in, and everyone is just we're too hard about things. We're too practical about things, and we tend to be rough and harsh with each other and people around us and the world, because somehow you're always stretched. So I think for me personally, I'm looking for a bit of softness. And sometimes things come together and sometimes things don't, right? And when they don't, it causes stress. And sometimes stress becomes beyond our control. Some things are within our control and some isn't. So today I didn't know what to pick on. Mental health is such a vast, never-ending, kind of complicated, uncharted terrain. I don't know what to pick on. I mean, when it comes to illnesses and disorders, there is a huge gamut, right? It starts from childhood itself, where there is autism, there is ADHD, where there is learning deficiencies and disorders. As we grow older, as teenagers and young adults, there is anxiety, there is depression, there are panic attacks. You move to the adult space, and again, there is OCDs and sleep disorders, and which is actually across ages. And in the old age, there is dementia, Parkinson's, psychosis, God knows, I was looking at all these names and saying, these individually you can go into and read and never really know and understand it. So the field is so huge, and you don't know what to understand and what not to. But the positive side is I was also thinking that we've come a long way from where we were. If you think about us living in the caves, in the ancient times, a lot of mental illnesses, I think in those days would be probably ascribed to supernatural powers, right? It was something, in fact, we don't even have to go back 1,000 years. Even if you go back 100 years, look at our country. Maybe not even that, actually. Even today in the villages, a lot of the symptoms of mental disorders are attributed to she or he has a ghost in him, and Dayanagi, and there is a witch, and there is somebody's ghost, and that is ascribed. And the cure for this is there'll be a tantric with a jharu or some herbs and some concoction, and from there And frankly, there was another thought that came to my mind. I don't know about you, but in my childhood, I watched all these B-grade Bollywood movies where there were these mental asylums as a kind of solution for anybody who did not conform to the rules of society. If your behavior was in any way outside what is acceptable, it was like put them in this pagalkhana. And as a child, when I would watch those scenes, I'd be like, very distressing and, very stereotypical as to what it means. So if you actually look at how we've understood and seen it, right, the stereotyping around it, and come to today, and how is it today at present, I think it brings me a lot of hope. And I'm not talking about numbers, because again, the statistics can be fairly depressing. There was a World Health Organization thing that said 1 out of 4 people are actually at some point in their lives will suffer. 1 out of 4 is a lot. I mean, that's 2 out of whatever on the screen right now. So that's a huge, scary number. In Europe, I do a lot of work in Europe for some human rights organizations, and I was talking to someone, and they said, we're in a really bad state because about half of the people in Europe who need medical intervention don't get it, who are suffering from mental illness. And I didn't know what to say, because he said half. In a country like ours, I think that number would be close to about 90%. So there is a long way to go. And yet, if I talk about the present day, I do see a little bit of hope, because at least there is conversation around it. At least we are talking about it. At least there are people who are coming out and speaking and admitting and trying to say, don't stigmatize it, and, understand it. So I think that is a huge step forward. In fact, I've actually got a soundbite. I'm going to share my screen in a bit. There is this man called Michael Phelps, if I'm saying his name right. I don't know if you've heard of him. He's an Olympian. You're nodding your head. Yeah, I'm guessing most would. He's an Olympian who's, I think, the most decorated Olympian ever. He's won the most medals ever. And for the past 10 years, maybe a little more actually, he has been talking about his struggle with mental illness. So let me just share my screen. You want to see a short video? And please say yes. You
Yes,
don't
ma'am.
want to hear me
Yes,
talk.
ma'am.
Yeah? 1 second.
Yes, ma'am.
Let me just figure this out. 1 second. Okay, can you see this?
Or I can look at myself in the mirror and like who I see.
We can't see it.
You can hear it?
Yeah, it's
I
clear,
can only
but I
hear
can't
you,
see it.
ma'am.
You can hear this, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Hear and see it, right? I'm sorry.
I can tell you, I've probably had at least half a dozen depression spells that I've gone through. And the one in 2014, I didn't want to be alive. Going through my all-time low, kind of seeing where I was and then seeing what I have now. I'm so thankful for my family and friends around me who were able to help me and were able to communicate with me. And I was able to grow through it.
Okay. So I thought just a little bit of video would be nice to get a sense of, you look at that man and say, in 2012, that's when he actually admitted that, there was, he was facing a problem. In 2012, in the Olympics, he did, it was an outstanding performance. He won 6 medals, 4 golds and 2 silver. And despite that, he felt himself questioning what next. And, he had his own struggle. So I don't know, in our heads, very often, again, we discriminate and we say it's because of failure. It is not, clearly. The reasons are just so many, right? There can be genetic reasons. There can be, it can be socioeconomic. J.K. Rowling, I'm sure most of you would have read Harry Potter, right? And know of J.K. Rowling and her struggle through depression. She was a single mother. There was no money. And for her, it was driven by the fact that she was unable to make ends meet and she had a little baby. In fact, if you remember the Dementors in these horrible, scary beasts in Harry Potter, I don't know if any of you remember. They were inspired by the demons in her head when she was going through depression. So I find that fascinating, that sometimes being low can also create wonderful things. There are just so many celebrities who are speaking out, right? There's Prince Harry, who spoke out about depression after his mother, Princess Diana, died. So sometimes it can be driven by grief. In India, you had so many celebrities from Bollywood, Deepika Padukone and Anushka Sharma and Pooja Bhatt, and there are others as well. In fact, with Anushka Sharma, both Virat Kohli as well has spoken about mental pressure and struggling through it. And when you look at their Instagram posts and they look like they have everything in the world, it's a reminder to say not everything is always perfect. In fact, you know what? I thought maybe cricketing examples would be better. I don't know, it's a small crowd. I actually wrote down a few names. I don't know these people, but Ben Stokes and Sean Tate and Jonathan Trout and Andrew Flintoff, all these guys, supposedly star cricketers, have spoken about their struggle through mental illness. So when more and more people step forward and acknowledge it and acknowledge their own struggles, and especially when they're people that we look up to, I think it paves the way for that small change in society to say maybe it's acceptable for me to say it as well, for me to acknowledge it, not just to myself, but also to those around me to say, hey, this is a disease. Don't ostracize and don't stigmatize me. In fact, there was this tennis girl. I was a journalist and we were talking, but there was this thing that made news across for many weeks. There was this very young tennis player called Naomi Osaka. Have any of you heard of her? She was 21, world number one, and she won a couple of Grand Slams. Literally, she was the world number one. She had the world at her feet, only 21 years old. And she decided to step back and take a break when she was at the peak of her career, and she could have asked for anything. She said, I'm taking a break from tennis because I feel I need to devote my energy and attention to my mental health. And that made news in a big way, and I think it sparked off a lot of conversation. And that's the power of media, and that's also the power of celebrities, right? When they talk about it, and then you realize that. And I'd like to think that that was also one of the inflection points where, it just brought about so much more conversation of people joining in to say it's okay to take a break. So I have another video. Would you like to see it? Or I don't know. I'll just leave it to you. It's a cute, it's a very touching animated kind of film. Would you like to see it?
Yes, ma'am. No
Yeah,
problem.
should I? Okay, let me
Yes,
just,
ma'am.
1 second. Let me just. Sorry, 1 second. Can you see it?
No, ma'am.
Can you see it now? Can you see it now?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes.
So did you like it? Did you see it? It's something so simple, right? I love it because it just so simply told the story. Did any of you, would you like to comment? Would any of you like to say something? Or let me ask you a question. How many of you know at least one person in your life who is suffering from some kind of mental stress or illness? So chances are that most of us would know at least one person. And like I said earlier, I mean, the figure is 1 in 4. So the statistics are actually terrible. And if you again begin to question why, from an evolution point of view, we were not meant to deal with modern lives. You know, it's like our physicality, we've not evolved in that way, in the way modern age and technology has. You know, I'll tell you a story. Just a couple of weeks ago, couple of months actually, I was in a national forest, and we were doing this jungle safari, and you know, you carry your water bottle and your snacks and your camera and whatever. Early morning we were out, and I saw this beautiful sight. I mean, it was green, it was beautiful, and there were these, I don't know, 50 or 100 deer just grazing. Early morning, dawn, it was so beautiful. And deer is such a graceful animal, right? I mean, it's just the way they were standing and their neck, and it looked so peaceful. They were just grazing. And literally, there was a tiger that came. And literally, you could sense the body language change, and they communicated to one another. And literally, suddenly there was a stiffening of posture, and they ran. And they ran beautifully. Again, they're so fast and quick and nimble and graceful, and they ran. And I saw the tiger following them, right? And the chase lasted about 2 minutes. And I just couldn't believe it. I mean, I was so sure the tiger's going to catch someone, and he didn't, or she didn't. And the deer got away. The tiger was tired. The tiger stopped. The deer moved a little distance away. And in my head, by then I was all worked up and cheering for the deer. And I was like, you know, don't stop. Just go a little further, you know, find a safe space, just carry on. And much to my surprise, they didn't. Like literally a couple of 100 meters away from the tiger, they stopped again. And literally all of this took 4 minutes, maybe 3 or 4 minutes. They bent their head down and they started grazing again. And in my head, I couldn't understand it. That, you know, why are they still not? And then I figured, you know, nature has made us in a certain way, right? For us as well, they've made us in a way where we're supposed to be, when you're faced with danger, we have that spurt of adrenaline and we fight, and we either kill or we are killed. And after which you calm down and you become numb, right? In the modern day, it doesn't happen. I don't think we ever calm down. There's always one stress trigger point after another, because there's always stimulus. There is so much information around us all the time that our brain is unable to cope with it. You know, I was telling you about my morning, right? I woke up, the alarm rang in my head. They're going to miss the school bus. I'm going to miss something else. And I forgot to send an email and something else happened. There was this constant stress that keeps building throughout the day. And trust me, social media is no help at all. I mean, Instagram is horrible because you open it saying, I'm going to scroll and look at something nice. And then you look and say, oh my God, I want to go where this person is. And I want to climb that mountain. And I want to wear what she's wearing. And I want to eat their food. And then I opened my fridge for lunch and there was only vegan. And it doesn't help, right? There is this constant small or big stress points that keep happening. So in the modern day, how do we cope? We still have to cope. And considering our brains are more evolved than the rest of the animals, we have to find a way to identify what can be our stress points and what we can do about it. And like I spoke earlier, I think with the brain, there is so much that we don't understand. We don't know why it happens. We don't even understand what happens. But perhaps what is in our control is what we can do to make it easier for us. So I just have, and this is where I don't fall asleep on me. I really need you to help me make the list. I thought together I could start off, and then maybe I can hear from all of you as to what your solutions are. Because the fact is, the brain is this, again, this beautiful organ, which is, to use a big word, it is neuroplastic. What it essentially means is the brain is capable of changing all the time. And it is in our hands to change it. And we change it based on the actions we decide to do or not do. So I put together a list of some actions, which are easy. And then maybe I can hear from all of you as to what do you think? What works for you, right? So the first one is, please bear with me. I know so many of you have your cameras off. I feel I'm talking to two people. It'd be really nice if you can, for just a couple of minutes, put it on. But if you don't, I'm going to live with that, because for most webinars, I have it off as well, so I can't complain. Thank you, Kumar, thank you, Madhavi. So since you're being so nice, I'm going to ask for one more thing. Just take a deep breath and humor me for 10 seconds. Just sit up straight. Just improve your posture, sit up straight, have your chin up, and take a deep breath and see how you feel. So scientifically, it's proven something so simple like posture can have a huge impact on your mental well-being and how you feel about yourself. It's something as simple as that. Is just remember to hold yourself straight. And in your head, say, I matter. That's all it takes. The other one, okay, is, how do I say this, is hashtag self-love. We have to, and I keep saying this, you have to be on your own team. You have to be your biggest fan. It is a simple thing. If you get something wrong, don't say I wasn't good enough. I told you about the rejection that came in for me today. I looked at it and I'm even though my writing may be terrible, I'm not going to say my writing is terrible. I'm just going to turn it around and say I'm going to try again and maybe change things around a little bit. I think sometimes that's all it takes. Why don't you, will you, let me hear from any of you. What works for you? What do you think? What are the things that we can do to kind of change that brain shape a little bit and think differently? And just anybody, just say something.
I just want to say about the film. That film actually reminded me of a short story written by R.K. Narayan in Malgudi days. So in which a person would be a painter who would be suffering from depression, and he will be roaming around. He will not do much. When a kid comes into his, that is, he will go to a carnival. He will say that the other painter didn't do the job properly. If I had done it, it would be better. Actually, a girl would cheat him away. So those will come into the picture, and after that, a kid will come out of nowhere. A kid will come, and with the kid coming, he will say, okay, fine. If the kid comes into my life, I can improve my life, so on, so on. He will think. And after that, the kid has to go to the family at one point of time. So he will again go back to that circle. It just reminded me of that story. I don't know why.
I'm so glad there was a reference, because it's the simplest story sometimes that, we carry with us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And another thing is, I love the director Vetri Maran. I don't know have you heard about him. He is one of the famous Vetri Maran. His name is Vetri Maran. So who takes film? Actually, he said a thing that there are two types of person: one who has seen the tiger, one who has not seen the tiger. If they have seen the tiger, saw the tiger, they will not shut about the experience. He proved his point. Fine. And thing is, see, I don't know about the self. Actually, the self acceptance has been reduced to things called, because we celebrated. We are starting to celebrate. I don't know where. We are starting to celebrate success as a virtue. Success as virtue. I didn't know this until I read the commentary of George Orwell on Mark Twain. He used this word deliberately, clearly, that success is never a virtue. So if you look at the Mark Twain's life, at one point, wife would support him, another point, wife would not support him. George Orwell clearly mentioned that success is never a virtue. So after that, only I came to know that. I was too hard on myself because I was not fitting to the example of success. So every point of time, I have to be successful. Even if I take a little bit of off time also, I have to be successful. I don't know why. So at that point, when I came to look at other interviews of people, they clearly stated this word: accept the people as themselves. So I'm trying to apply to myself also. I have to accept my as myself. I have my drawbacks and positives. So let me cheer up with that. I'm like this. I can't change it. So let me what is it? Let me go on with this. This is my thought right now. I don't know will it work or not. Fine.
No, I think the point is to keep trying. And I love the way you're drawing references. And because you're doing that, you're inspiring me to think as well, and you mentioned about success, and it's so true. The modern age, just productivity and success. I want to just take that thought, when you were talking in my head, I was thinking that it's true, right? We give success a lot of importance, and that means you have to constantly work hard. At some point, at least in the corporate world, you see that so often that at some point that thing flips and it also becomes irrelevant whether you're successful or not. What becomes important is the show of working hard. So I've had friends and colleagues who with great pride say, I worked till 11 in the night, as if, it's something to be proud of. So at some point, it just keeps flipping and we keep pushing ourselves to be in a completely unnatural state of constant agitation and pursuit. You get the deer, you eat it. After that, the tiger sleeps. For us, we never sleep. So yeah, I'm glad you shared.
Have you watched a movie called Whisper of the Heart by Ghibli Studio?
No, I'm not very.
A great movie. Actually, they will discuss two types of working. One is hustle culture, one is not a hustle culture, taking a break away here and there, looking after your personal welfare. And they will not celebrate both also. It's up to the person, they will leave it away. It's up to the preference. Actually, if you go into hustle culture, it's your preference. If not, it is your preference. They will leave it that way. But I recently noticed that hustle culture has been institutionalized. Every institution wants everyone to be in hustle culture. No, I don't feel like that. I need some time for my passions and hobbies. I need work-life balance. If it doesn't work like that way, I hate it. I don't know why. I think this is the thing I noticed.
Which kind of brings me back to the question I want to throw to all of you, because in the film that we saw, something as simple as a plant, right, brightened her life. And again, it's been scientifically proven that 5 minutes, that's all, 5 minutes of some kind of exposure to nature makes a huge difference in how we feel about things. It's just that connection with nature. How many of you walked bare feet recently? Have any of you? You have, Madhuri? I mean, I did it yesterday after long. And I was like, again, it was just, there is something, right, about being connected. Can you tell us
if
where
we come to section, everyone goes to mountains and come back, they are changed.
Yeah.
And it's actually in every story. When they are connected to nature, they come back with so much of energy and positivity.
Yes. And it's literally having just a green dying plant at your windowsill also can make so much of a difference to how you feel. Does anyone want to add? Continue with this thought or give me an idea. What works for you? What else can we do? Apart from sitting straight, self-love, nature, what else? Just let's hear some of you. I don't want it to
positivity, keep the kid in us alive.
Yes.
There's somewhere some kid in us.
Yes. Yes.
Positivity is
How do you do that? How do you do that? I remember at the start of the discussion, Karthikeyan mentioned that he's curious. And I think one way, like I was telling him, is by having, even when we're really old, if you're not jaded, I know it all, if you have that sense of curiosity and wonder, if you can still look at the stars and the sun and the moon and something fantastic and appreciate it, I think that is one way. What else, Madhuri? How can we keep ourselves alive? Tell me.
Same curiosity and that positivity. The kid has no fear actually. So they do not know what a fear is. They just act.
Yeah.
We just have to act. To some extent, this fear stops us to move ahead, climb a step.
There is a balance, when you said that in my head, I was thinking, and I truly believe this, the world would be a better place if we all acted on impulse, because half the stress is because we keep thinking of what is reasonable and what is practical. Of course, that's not good advice because it would also be very, very chaotic, but yes, I hear you. Is there anybody else? Give me another way to do this. I'm trying very hard not to lecture you. I hate webinars where I have to listen to people talk. So please just talk to me so this is fun. Or I'm going to behave like a teacher and start saying Jitesh, Tripathi, and Siddhi, if you can. How many of you have a pet? Does anyone have a dog or a cat? You do?
Yes, ma'am. I have.
How do you feel about having a pet when you maybe just, how do you feel when you hug your pet or when, or can you talk about it? Whoever, I mean, whoever has pet. Kumar, your microphone came on as well. Would you like to share? Can I call you Kumar? It sounds very rude, but
Yes, ma'am.
okay. Please call
No
me.
problem.
Please don't call me ma'am. Or I'll have to say, sir, yes, tell us about your pet. How do you feel?
I have, ma'am, I have around 6 pets. They are dog.
Yeah.
They are the one of the kind of, I can say that the human thing that we have, that when I have a deep problem or anything, any kind of situation which is not according to me, they help me because playing with them is like a time which remove and kind of emotion. I don't remember the exact word for that.
No, to use whatever language you remember it in.
Uh, yes,
वो शब्द बहुत जरूरी है आप say it. I'm
जी
not.
मैम जी। क्या बोले मैम, एग्जैक्टली ध्यान नहीं आ रहा वो चीज के लेके।
But you remember the feeling, right? When you have a dog or
यस
a
मैम।
cat and you're just holding that animal in your lap, that feeling. In fact,
यस मैम।
it's not just with pets, you know. During COVID, there was this term. It stuck in my head. I was just, you know, it was a phrase that I heard for the first time during COVID. It's called skin hunger. I don't know if any of you heard of it. I remember when I read it, it just resonated so strongly because, you know, we all need to be touched, like physically, skin on skin. And I don't mean this only in a sexual way. I mean, of course, that is important, but I mean just the feeling of somebody, another human being, touching you, just like, you know, the warmth of skin on skin is so important. So my point, if I have to contribute, I'd say hugs. There was a study done, and I have 2 sons, I have 2 boys. And I was telling them, you know, they're growing up and, you know, they don't want to be hugged anymore. And I was telling them, for your development, I need to hug you 12 times a day. There was a study done which said, actually, for a child to develop fully and nicely, it needs hugs. For adults as well, we need to be hugged. I mean, it just positively reaffirms our sense of self. So come on, what else can we do? We're still on that list. So who else is going to add to this? What helps in shaping our brains and making us feel better? Anugrah, Akash, Pradeep, Nishita. These are lovely names, but I have no idea who's behind them. Would you like to share, or anybody on the screen? Karthikeyan, Madhuri, Prachi. You've been so quiet. You only spoke at the beginning. You want to say something? Okay, who here is a gym rat? Who likes the dumbbells and, you know, the weights and yoga, whatever? Is there anyone here who likes to exercise? Nobody? I'm the only one putting up my hand. It cannot be just me. But you know the feeling. I mean, you've gone for a walk, gone for a run, gone for a swim, just done anything. Do you remember the feeling after? It is a high like no other. And you've had so many athletes talk about this. You know, it's okay. You don't even need to do fancy things like dumbbells and weights and, you know, these fancy asanas. I mean, I keep falling. I can't do any of it. It is just moving. It is as simple as that. We don't have to get into anything complicated. Just the act of physically moving changes our brain versus sitting and versus looking at your phone and scrolling. Just the act of moving, just a little bit of movement goes a long way, again, in helping us feel better about ourselves. And I'm not talking about, again, My brother sent me a pose. He was doing the Bakasan, and I sent him a green-faced emoji. It doesn't have to be the Bakasan, and it doesn't have to be Iron Man and the marathons and all of that. Just get up and move. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, and see how you feel. Sleep. How many of you were up last night? How many of you were up last night? I'm the only one again. I couldn't sleep well. And which I think is the reason for me also having like a terrible day today. Sleep is essential, absolutely essential. Just something as simple as that. Sleep can make a world of a difference to how we feel. And again, these are small, easy things that I try to put together. I didn't want this this seminar to be all, a Gyan-given session. I didn't want it to be too technical. I just wanted it to be a little reminder of things that we can do. There are just a million things that are never in our hands. But it is these little things that we can do that can help us feel better about ourselves. And the last thing is gratitude for me. I'm going to share my story. I mean, there wasn't a structured way in which I went about doing this, but again, coming back to my boys, when they go to sleep in the night and, we're all lovey-dovey and hugs and all that, I wanted to know what happens in their day. So I started by asking them when they were very, very young, what was the best thing about your day? And over time, and they come up with all these weird things, but over time I realized what we are doing. And when they say it, I mean, I say it too, right? And I realized it about myself. Just that questioning us, the three of us, when we talk to each other, is a way of reminding us what was nice. And because I asked them, I have to answer as well. It was a way of reminding myself. And some days it's just like eating the best ice cream, and some days a big thing happens, and some days really nothing happens, but you still find something. You still find something. So I think it is also important for us to feel that sense of gratitude and remind ourselves. Some people write a diary and journal it. Some people have their own means. I don't know. Do you have suggestions? Then tell me. Because when my boys grow up, I'll need another way to do this. But just gratitude. So all these are these little things that we can do to help us just lead more wholesome lives. And remind ourselves, it's not just us. A lot of the discussion was centered around ourselves, our own selves. But considering we live in society, I think it is also important for us to recognize it in others, to be able to empathize with when there is someone who comes and has a cancer survivor, for example, right? We don't react and look at them and say, oh, you're doing it for attention. If your bone is broken, if you have a fracture, I will not look at you and say, oh, don't worry, it'll pass, the pain will go. But very often, these are the kind of responses that those who are struggling with mental health diseases, they'll have to listen to. So I think it is important for us as a society, as a community, to understand, to recognize, and also to be able to support and help each other, by being more empathetic. Humans, I think we're 9 billion almost now, right? We survive as a species because we learn to collaborate and cooperate and live together. So I think we should extend this also. It'd be great if we could extend this to the mental health sphere as well. So tell me, if any of you would like to share something, or do any of you want to look back at life? Okay, let's end like this. I'm just wondering, we're almost out of time. So to end this, okay, let me throw this at you. Look back at your life and think of one thing. It could be an activity, it could be a phase, it could be something you do, it could be something that happened, it could be a person, anything, a place, one thing in your life that brought you joy. And when I say joy, I don't mean happiness in a flaky sense. I mean, if you ask me that, I'd just say ice cream. That doesn't work. I mean something in the more long-term, in a more stable way, something which is deeper, something which sustains, not just a couple of minutes. So look back at your lives and tell me, what is that one thing? What is that one thing? Or if you don't want to tell me, even if you can think about it. If you want to share it, please just say it. Otherwise, think of that one thing. And then ask yourself.
I was a teacher back in last year, actually. I was teaching 10th class students biology. So when they got good marks in biology subject in science, they came and thanked me. That made me very happy.
That's wonderful. It's simple, but it just makes you feel valued or whatever. Yes, that's wonderful. For me, it is every time I create something. Even if I cook something or I paint something or I make just some nonsense, even if I put just anything, it just makes me feel nice. And the point for asking you to think about this is, at some level, also think about when was the last time you did that? And how can you do it again and again? It is important. If you remember how you felt and you felt that sense of whatever that word is, Kumar, I can't think of a word. I can't think of that word. But if you remember that feeling, whatever that word is, remember that feeling and say, what can I do to bring that back into my life and have that feeling again and again? So I want to leave you with that thought. And Prachi, over to you. If you want to please talk to me, if there's anything you want to say, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I think we're almost out of time. I'll throw it back to Prachi.
Actually, I just want to know feelings.
Yes.
Fine. Sorry for interrupting.
No,
So
please.
you said
No,
in the
you can
beginning you said
continue,
you
sir.
read. In the beginning you said you read dark books, right? I want to know what kind of genre is it?
No, these are phases. These are phases. No, I just across genres, but currently I'm reading stories and there's this book. Okay, let me not talk about the book. It's a Japanese author. There are all kinds actually. Currently it's nothing. It's about cats in her life and the story is told through cats and somehow there is a sense of loneliness and all. No, let's not talk about books. This is never-ending conversation, Karthikeyan. I will not get into it. And I was very clear from the beginning in my head. I don't want to make this a depressive, dark seminar. This is going to be positive and uplifting. So I'm not going to go that way.
Fine. So can you enlighten us about the painting you have in your back?
Oh my God, no, because I was trying to sit at a place where, things look interesting. It's unfinished.
No, it's
Ask me a
yours.
question I can answer, Karthikeyan, please. This is unfinished. It's just for good backdrop.
No, it's yours. You did it.
No, it's just it's like I said, it's actually just paint, just we fool around with colors and crayons, and so it's one of those. Ask me a proper question, Karthikeyan. All your questions I can't answer. Ask me an easy one.
No, actually, that's kind of inspiring for me. Maybe I can think of an activity where coming with the friends of drawing, painting. So see, I don't know. I don't know about the modern art. I'm trying to look at. I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying. Actually there was a person who said that. First of all, I didn't understand modern art. I don't know how to look at it. There was a person who said, again a famous director, Ms.Ekta Kumar. He said that everybody celebrated Picasso because he looked at women in a different angle. Everybody looked at women in one way. He looked at women in box, tubes. Right? At that point, I understand. Oh, the modern art is like that. You have to look at a different perspective. So I'm just wondering. Maybe I could think of the abstract concept. Maybe I could think of a plan of doing it. There are events happening on. Maybe I could take part in it. I don't know.
No, so I can give you a suggestion here because this is something I feel really passionately about. With all due respect to Cubism and Picasso, if you're doing any, just use color and don't critique yourself even before you start. Just have fun with it. It can be absolute, it doesn't matter. Like I said, forget what it's called, modern, contemporary, abstract, whatever, Cubism, whatever. Remember the feeling and hold the feeling. It's not the words.
Yeah, fine. Then I'll take that as an inspiration. Maybe I'll plan an event with my friends.
So hopefully, if we ever bump into each other at any seminar again, I'm going to ask you, did you do something about it? And I'm hoping that, all the others here as well. If you take anything, I don't know what you're taking away from this, but if you take anything, it is just be fearless about recognizing what is it that you need. Remember what you did and how it made you feel, and bring that back in your life in some way. Prachi, I'm going to throw it back to you to kind of wind this up. It is almost time. Or would someone else say bye nicely and do something, say something, since Prachi seems to be out right now. Is there anyone else who'd like to wrap it up? You can't make me.
I want to say some feedback now.
Sorry?
I want to say some feedback.
Please do. Yes, Pradeep. It's lovely to hear from you, even if it's at the end.
I've never seen a charisma like this, and it kept me active throughout the session.
Oh, it's a compliment you're ending with. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So I think we shall log off with that. Thank you, Pradeep, for kind words. And I've had a great time as well. I want to say thank you because any kind of session makes me think as well. And like I said right at the beginning, I think softness is missing. So any kind of session that makes you pause your regular life and your regular running around is great for me as well. So I want to thank you all for taking time out and listening and sharing and talking and making this something for me as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much.
Please call me Ekta from Iman.